What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and today's Tuesday, so it's Crypto Tuesday, which means we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, exploring. Usually we're just talking about Bitcoin, but maybe we'll explore a few other things as well. But I'm really excited just to chat with you guys a little bit more about cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and Bitcoin in particular. If you guys haven't been paying attention, I am one of those guys that's slowly shifting his asset allocation into Bitcoin. So one of the things we've chatted about in the past year is the idea of, putting 1% of your assets into Bitcoin. Another thing I've shared with you guys is a few of my companies now are starting a treasury policy of taking 1% of our gross revenue per month and putting it into Bitcoin as well. So, I'm definitely excited to continue to explore these things, continue to have interesting conversations, and really excited to bring Tim back on and just kind of chat about, what's going on in the world of crypto. Hey, Tim, how's it going?
I'm great. Thanks, Matt. How are you?
Good. So I guess we should probably just discuss the elephant in the room right off the bat, right? Which is a new all-time high, 63,000. Feels like we've been bumping up against that for a while.
Yeah, definitely the market's been in an accumulation phase, but with, the nonstop, never-ending stream of good news for Bitcoin when it comes to awareness and adoption from corporate treasuries. The number can only go up. So we're just trying to be patient.
Yeah. I think, again, it's fascinating to see these developments because obviously once you've got a little bit of skin in the game, you pay attention differently to the market, right? So something I learned about real estate, the moment I started getting into real estate, I started paying a lot more attention to real estate news and what could influence the real estate market. And obviously the same holds true for crypto, but and Bitcoin in particular. But the one thing that does stand out for me in particular is that, when I talk to brand new real estate investors, one of the things we talk about is your the ARS system, right? And your ability for your brain to start identifying new patterns or new symbols where you might have overlooked them in the past. And, the first one that comes to mind for real estate investors is the moment you decide you're a real estate investor, you start seeing realtor signs and for sale by owner signs everywhere. And I think one of the things that's really interesting for me is the deeper I've gotten to Bitcoin, it is, there does appear to be a lot of signals that would indicate bullishness for people, right? Like it's fascinating for me to just see all these different little aspects and insights into, oh, this company's doing this thing now. Oh, they just announced that. Here's another person that just developed laser eyes. All those different little symbols to the market or signals are fascinating to me. And it's really interesting. And I think what's also kind of fun about it is there's this sense of community among a lot of the Bitcoin maximalists, right? Where they're really like, it almost blurs the line between like investments and cults and beliefs and just like all that fun stuff. And there's a different energy almost. And like real estate investing to me to a degree had that where, there's the sense of camaraderie-ship amongst local real estate investors and you're trying to help each other level up with personal finances. And it's really refreshing to have something similar to that in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely a tribe and an in-group and an out-group, so to speak, when it comes to maximalism. You would think that if, like, I've been researching this nearly full time for like 5 years now, you'd think that if the technology had some huge flaw or that the economic policy wasn't sound or that, there were reasons to be bearish, that you would find the community of people talking about the real issues and you'd be like, oh, okay, I see how balanced the market is or how, the market is not being pragmatic. But I have not run into this group of people with rational negative news or things to say about Bitcoin. So I'm extremely bullish still as a maximalist. And I think the number will keep going up, maybe just not as fast as people hope. That does seem to be the consensus that we're headed to high or middle to high six-figure numbers before the end of the year. And once that becomes consensus, maybe the real truth will be that we don't get there or we don't get there as quickly, so that we can pretend like it wasn't always just going to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've got a few things that I'm excited to discuss and explore in today's catch up. So Tim's got a chart that we're going to be checking out. We're also going to talk for anyone that's really new to the idea of getting into Bitcoin. I'm going to be sharing a tweet from Brad Mills that I personally find very helpful because one of the things that is interesting about the Bitcoin culture, in my opinion, is, CryptoPunks. They are crypto ciphers and stuff like that. Like this idea of wanting privacy, and not a lot of people will necessarily share their holdings, what they're accumulating. They'll tell you that they're stacking sats, but outside of that, it's sometimes hard to get insight into it. And I guess one of the things that, this is going to sound silly and stupid, and yet I think it's just how human psychology works, that is kind of helpful about real estate, is people constantly flexing on their success. So like that to me set some benchmarks, right? And kind of created a desire to want to follow that path. And I think when it comes to Bitcoin, a lot of people just talk about stacking sats, and I think that's completely cool. But someone like me kind of needs something to compete against, even if I'm just competing against myself. And so really excited to explore that tweet from Brad. But let's pull up your chart here first and kind of break down for us what we're looking at here, Tim.
For sure. So this is a chart of the Mayer multiple. And the Mayer multiple was invented by Trace Mayer, an early Bitcoiner and a huge advocate. He had a podcast called the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast, and it was a really great show. It explored topics around liberty, libertarianism, Austrian economics. And he was a lawyer by trade. So, he was a good thinker on the subject. He adopted it early. I'm sure he made lots of money with it as well. And he developed this metric to help determine if the market was, getting ahead of itself or sort of falling behind. And so what the Mayer multiple represents is the current price divided by the 200-day moving average. And so investors will talk about 200-day moving averages all the time. But it was sort of a new concept to be brought to Bitcoin. The multiple, or the indicator itself, has become so popular that it's listed on a number of different websites and portals. So you can find the one that you like and look at that. But we'll show here that the current multiple is 1.89. So that over the last 200 days, just a rough number, we were about 30,000, and we're nearly double that now. And then you can see historically the green bars, the yellow bars, and the red bars, so that when we're above 2.4, most of the time a correction has been imminent. And when we're below 1.0, a correction to the upside is typically imminent. So again, if people are thinking that, oh my goodness, at 63K US dollars, the Bitcoin price is out of my hands, I can't get any, I'm never going to have enough or have any at all, it's a bad time to buy. Well, not according to the history that the Mayer multiple presents. Trace Mayer more recently has sort of had a fall from grace, where he was interested in some additional privacy preserving technology for Bitcoin called Mimblewimble. And because the development timeline, let's say, for Bitcoin takes a little bit longer as a fully open source decentralized project, he sort of realized that it was likely not going to be implemented anytime soon. And so he got behind an initial coin offering, or an ICO, of a coin that would support that technology. And so all of the maximalists sort of lost their love for Trace Mayer, and he sort of fell off the earth. I don't think he's tweeted since maybe February 2020 now. So other than that, I think he's a great guy. You can't blame somebody for being entrepreneurial, and he really was a great gateway for me to learn about Bitcoin in a more academic sense. So I can't recommend him enough to check out his podcast, the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast, and to keep the Mayer multiple in the back of your mind as you're trying to establish, am I buying, am I selling, am I just holding forever, that sort of thing.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate that. And I think actually I kind of want to jump into a question from the audience here, Tim. So Stephen was just asking, where do you start buying Bitcoin? So I think this is a question a lot of people have when they initially start, right? Like, maybe you've heard about it, a few people have told you about it. Maybe you do a Google search, you land on a Globe and Mail article. But for a Canadian, what kind of comes to mind as some of the options available for people if they want to start getting into Bitcoin?
Yeah, great question. The other elephant in the room that we didn't really put on our list today is the Coinbase IPO tomorrow. So Coinbase is probably the largest player internationally. So depending on where you are, it's probably a safe bet anywhere in the world. It's not an exchange that's favored by maximalists because they have a lot of alternative coins and other projects that they support, and their fees are probably the highest in the industry. So They make it easy and they make it kind of fun. And there's an opportunity to do some learning and earning, which is neat. But there are other Canadian exchanges that I would recommend ahead of those, being ShakePay and Newton. Newton has the lowest fees out there, and ShakePay has the one of the easiest onboarding processes as well. If you are referred by an existing ShakePayer, you then not only do you get a referral bonus, but you can also literally shake your phone every day to get free Satoshis, free sats. So it adds a sort of gamification or a little fun element to bring Bitcoin into the real world, because there's no Bitcoin to hold in your hand. So by shaking your phone, you can sort of feel like you're actually part of the network doing that.
That's hilarious. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I've got links on my site. So if you check out FIwithBitcoin.com, there's a getting started page there, and there's two links to both of those exchanges, where you'll benefit, I'll benefit the same, whatever referral fee that you get, I'll benefit as well. But I've had a great experience with those two companies. They're quick to transact. And again, Newton slightly, like I think 0.5% on the buy or sell spread better. So if you're buying a lot, go to Newton. If you're buying a little and you don't really care about 0.5% and you'd rather get on with the sort of quicker onboarding and the cool ShakePay, get free sats. You get more sats for every day of the streak that you maintain. So yeah, that's the game. That's the game part. So
that's funny. That's hilarious. Yeah, and really appreciate that. And obviously, there's also a variety of wallets then that people can choose to transfer their holdings to. I guess one thing I do want to highlight for people is it was something I wasn't aware of. There's a lot of not real wallets out there on the App Store. And there's a lot of stories of people accidentally falling victim to downloading the wrong wallet. So I think it's one thing that's just absolutely critical. I've actually got a really interesting story that I'll maybe share on a future one where this shit's not reversible, guys. So I think a lot of us grew up in an ecosystem where maybe reality was nerfed for us a little bit, right? Like it was just really easy, simple. You screwed something up, you could call the bank, talk your way through it. You're insured, things like that. It's important, like, to understand that once you click that button, once you transfer those funds into another wallet, it happened. It's processing. It's committed at that point in time. And again, I think that's both what's awesome, but also can be a little bit intimidating for people when they're first getting into this space. So I think the key with a lot of this stuff is don't immediately drink all the Kool-Aid and decide to put all your money in one transaction and then try and buy all at once or transfer all at once. Do those little test transactions. It was really interesting. I was listening to a Clubhouse chat the other day, and they were talking about, do you still do test transactions? I think it was like American Hodler, one of those guys that's very aggressive. He's like, no, I don't do that anymore. We just sent like $1 million. And I didn't even look at it. And like, there's a bunch of other people who are like, oh no, I still send test transactions every time. I'm a total little bitch. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that either, guys. So, for me, one of the funner ways to initially get into it was like someone just gave me a token amount, right? So that was kind of my gateway at a cryptocurrency meetup. They're like, hey, go download this wallet. I'll send you like 0.00 whatever sats at the time. And then for me, I was like, ooh, like I want to just go acquire a little bit more. So again, I probably took an unusual path. I bought a Bitcoin ATM and then bought some through my own Bitcoin ATM. But like, for me, the fun was really just having a couple $100 in and being able to give it to friends and try and like spark that interest in them as well. Because again, it's a lot funner to do this with a group, right? So whether you find a new community online through Clubhouse, Twitter, Discord chat, whatever you happen, Telegraph, wherever you happen to stumble into a community, or if you decide to start building your own, you can also literally start getting your friends and family into this in a relatively low cost, low risk environment where go buy $30 at a time or $50 at a time and just get used to the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's certainly varying degrees of systems in Canada to participate in a more nerfed way. I think there's the last piece I was saying about how to get started as a Canadian. It can't go without saying that we are very fortunate that the Canadian regulators have approved not one, but a few Bitcoin ETFs, which I think we probably mentioned in the first episode together a little over a month ago. So if you are really unsure, like the technology sounds scary, I would still start learning about the technology, but I would also take the opportunity to put tax advantaged Bitcoin into my hands. So TFSA and RRSP. I think we probably mention that every week, but it is such an advantage that Canadians have with access to a variety of funds to choose from with different expense ratios and different, terms. But gaining the exposure to the massive momentum of Bitcoin's price has been huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so this feels like a perfect time. I'm going to pull up and do my screen share here with Brad's tweet, guys. But again, you guys can go track this down. Turns out it's a lot harder to find a tweet than I realized, but Tim was able to help me. But if you go look at Brad Mills, this is from just 2 days ago, April 11th. And again, like I was saying, for a lot of people, when they get into real estate investing, there's kind of a very clear path. You're going to go buy a property. And that's when you're going to feel like you became a real estate investor. And I think for a lot of people with Bitcoin, they're like, am I not a Bitcoin investor until I own a whole Bitcoin? Geez, that's not a small sum of money anymore. And I think some people get intimidated or they get caught up in that unit bias and they never can see a path outside of it. I thought this was just kind of a fun, nice little basic path to lead us forward, right? So, have you joined the 1337 Bitcoin Get Rich Slowly challenge yet? Get into the LEET, BTC, and cold storage that you will save until at least 2030. And again, I actually kind of love this as well. Setting feels very SMART goal to me, actually, right? Like specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So I think the other aspect that a lot of people, when they first start dabbling here, maybe get themselves into trouble with is they don't have those diamond hands. They've got the paper hands or whatever you want to refer to it as. But again, having just this small path of like, okay, this is going to be my goal. And whether it takes you a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade, if that's what it takes to stack those sats, at least you kind of have a random arbitrary path. I think for a lot of us, when we get into real estate investing, we start off with an arbitrary path that's like, I'm going to buy a property because that's going to make me a real estate investor. And, I think aim for this. If you don't know what to aim for, use that as your basis. And then what's great is, he's got to keep learning about Bitcoin and lots of resources there that you guys could do. We talked about the white paper a few times, but then next target is one Bitcoin, then 6.15 Bitcoin. I'm not super up on my memes, but if I remember correctly, this was because some dude kept just bragging about having 6.15 Bitcoin. Is that how this all came about? Tim, do you know that story?
You know what? I don't specifically know the 6.15. I just know that it was a meme and a meme amount. With Canadian net worth, I don't know that 6.5 is realistic for most, but I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing business and you're doing well, absolutely achievable. Go out and get it. I think all of the maximalists' price targets for this year are in the 200 to 300K and in the multiple millions per coin in the next cycle. And then, if it keeps going from there, it's just going to be crazy. And that's in 2021 dollar terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then for those of you that really want to shoot for the moon, if you need to know what happens after 6.15, Brad was nice enough to lay out another plan for us. So I'll have to Google. I don't know what the 5318.008 represents, but I assume it's significant. Is that a meme? Do you know that meme there?
I don't think so. I don't know that one.
And I'm assuming that this is just childish combining 420 and 69 together, or maybe again that's some special meme. But
that's an Elon Musk type of vibe.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Actually, that makes sense. Yeah. So, anyways, guys, I do think that this is interesting, right? So, like, if you're like me, maybe you were sitting on the sidelines longer than you'd like, and you were just feeling like, I don't even know really how to get started. How do I know if I'm winning or losing? Because I'm not planning to sell these things for a long time. Set an arbitrary goal at the start, the same way you likely set an arbitrary goal as a real estate investor at the start. I think that that's honestly the best way to get into it. And again, if that 0.1337 seems too intimidating, just put a 0 in front of it, right? And now we've got 0.01337 is now my goal. And you can work your way up in whatever steps are necessary or practical for yourself. But again, I think what's really important is just getting some small amounts of skin in the game so that you start paying attention. All right, Tim. Well, I forget. Did you have another slide before I kind of hijacked the screen share here?
I didn't have a slide. It was, I thought I will get the slide, and then I never got it because we got into talking about it. But it was related to the asset buckets measured in trillions. Let's just see if we can find a nice graphic really quick here. Asset class.
And while Tim's doing that, I'll just catch up on a couple of the chats here. So see a few people are sharing different wallets or ideas in that regards. That's great, guys. Again, I think it is important to do your own research and understand as well, based upon my anecdotal experience, it seems like the Android ecosystem is a lot more fun if you're looking for cool wallets or apps and things of that nature. Whereas, great one, Jeff. I appreciate that. It's boobies. Backwards. That's what 5318.008 is. God damn it. I grew up in the calculator era. I should have known that, but I really appreciate that, Jeff. That actually made my day. Thank you. So again, that's hilarious. But I think that highlights even more just kind of the culture of fun here, where there's a certain Bitcoin maximalists referring to themselves as plebs, really just leaning into this idea of we're in it together and just whatever you can do, let's take a step towards it.
I've got a slide that'll work.
Perfect.
Go on bigger. There we go. So this represents the investable universe, represented in trillions of dollars, starting over here with the small ones, royalties. Now, this was either created before Bitcoin or by people not interested in talking about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now in the $1 trillion range. And gold, where's gold on here? Apparently this isn't exactly the one that I wanted, but gold is in the $10 trillion kind of range. I guess it would be a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got the S&P 500. This is what most people would invest in. S&P 500 in international equities, U.S. fixed income, global fixed income, and then global real estate we can see is clearly the largest slice of the pie at $217 trillion. We know that for most people, their home represents their largest savings vehicle or a forced savings plan because, somewhere between 25 and 50% of their mortgage payments are likely principal. And the trouble is, though, that real estate is not liquid in the same way as perhaps Bitcoin or other securities or investments. It may be taxed in a different way, and it's certainly not transportable. If you've bought a mobile home, you're probably not winning at real estate. So is there a chance that a technology like Bitcoin will start to eat away at these other investment buckets? Will it represent a better store of value and therefore eat away at the monetary premium of art or eat away at the monetary premium of real estate? And I thought that was a good question to ask to the real estate guru, Matt McKeever, and his audience.
Yeah. I think this is always a fun and interesting thing to explore, right? And oftentimes, or at least correct me if I'm wrong here, but when people talk about like Bitcoin eating the world, this is kind of what they mean, right? It's going to eat away. It's going to replace art. It's going to replace that thing, or it's going to eat up a chunk of that essentially like representation of market value. Mm-hmm. And so, I think one of the ones that's really interesting for me is like the idea of digital art and those other aspects, because that was a way for high net worth individuals to essentially sometimes arbitrarily assign a value to a piece of work, but then you could go and get insured, right? And what a lot of people don't understand is like the really expensive high-end pieces of work probably never even make it to your house, right? You probably keep it in storage at Christie's or whatever auction house or like some other third party, and you may never actually like view it, and it's really just an investment, and it's as much for the insurance policy as anything else. And so I think that, Bitcoin in particular, and just anything that's going to be digitally scarce and designed that way, has a really interesting opportunity to replace that. So I think that a lot of the people right now that buy Toronto condos as an inflation hedge, I mean, do you really want a condo that doesn't cash flow or cost you negative cash flow every month as an inflation hedge just because you're scared of holding dollars? Or could you get comfortable with the idea of holding Bitcoin? You know, to me, I could easily adopt to that reality of believing that the Bitcoin was a better, more stable investment because, hey, let's look at my holding costs. My holding costs are significantly less. It doesn't matter, you know, what timeline I amortize that cold wallet on. It's realistically not that big of an expense compared to even just like earlier today, we were shooting a video on some good condo opportunities in Toronto with Emma Pace, our local expert there. And she was showing us, and this is a good investment for Toronto condo buyers, but a one-bedroom condo that was going to have, I think, negative $300 a month cash flow. And like Toronto investors are excited by that because they're trying to protect themselves from inflation. I think I'd rather buy a Bitcoin at this point in time.
Yeah, it doesn't take away the opportunity to do big leverage. Obviously, there's margin trading with Bitcoin, just like with securities. But I think a lot of people get their first taste of leverage with that mortgage, and so maybe real estate won't be dead yet. We all need somewhere to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, appreciate you bringing that up. Definitely seen a few different versions of that chart. So for anyone that wants maybe the exact one we wanted, just go Google it. And I'm sure you guys can track down one that will represent gold and Bitcoin for you as well. But yeah, I guess before we wrap up here, Tim, I just feel like because we're at 63,000, because we're at an all-time high, no one can predict the future, but it's always fun to pretend like you can. You know, do you want to make any predictions, whether short-term, mid-term, or long-term right now?
I don't have anything in my head. Like it would just be me making it up as I go right now. But I think that we'll see a slower progress. I think based on that initial thought earlier in the call, that we won't see the rush to 200 or 300 in the next couple of months. It will be a much slower boil, but it will still be in the up and to the right direction.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I haven't actually read a lot on it, but I guess to me, it feels natural that we would see stability, like as we get more institutions, as we get more money flowing into this, that we would see less violent price swings, right? And presumably it'll just be harder for people to necessarily nudge or move the market, the more attention, the more capital that's flowing into this space. So yeah, again, I don't have any really specific predictions, although I think I'd be pretty confident saying that we'll probably pass $100,000 Canadian this year at some point in time. But it'll be fun and interesting to see how it all plays out. And again, I think the big thing here is circling back to that tweet I shared from Brad Mills is I believe Tim's on the same board with me as this, but like neither of us is really looking to sell in the short term, right? Like this is a long-term buy and hold. And that's one of the things that I actually love about this when I think about real estate. When I first started getting into real estate, you know, I can remember being 25 years old and be like, I'm going to buy this property. I'm going to own it for 20 years. I'm going to pay the mortgage. And within 20 years, it'll be paid off. And then I'll have this free property. It's going to be this amazing thing. Again, it wasn't a bad idea per se, but there's a lot of energy and maintenance that goes into keeping and owning that property for 20 years and managing it or managing the managers when it comes to that rental property. And you know, the idea of socking away maybe a few less rental properties, having a few Bitcoins feels like a much nicer balance from a active versus passive portfolio perspective.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I'm looking at my portfolio in thirds. So stocks and equities, real estate, and Bitcoin.
It sounds very reasonable and balanced. Appreciate the insight, Tim. And, you know, as always, we'll throw a link to Tim's stuff in the video description down below. I'm going to go shake my phone and see if I get free sats, and appreciate everyone watching this video. If you guys enjoyed it, smash the like button, hit subscribe. And we're doing this every Tuesday, so let us know. I see a few people were asking us to talk about Canadian Bitcoin mining companies. So it's an area I don't have a lot of experience or exposure to, but maybe Tim and I can do a little bit of research in the next week or so, and we can circle back and start chatting about it.
Sounds good. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim, and we'll see you guys in the next video.